most powerful gang got brutally removed from power. Hold on. Brutally. Like I was subscribed. I'll be in London next month. August. Hold on. Tap in.
In 2011, when the sound of gunshots shattered the silence at a funeral in Southwark, Aziza Ronnie Khan lay motionless, the latest victim in a brutal gang feud that had gripped South London. This was the peak of the GAS gang's reign of terror, a gang that had risen from Brixton's roughest streets to become London's most feared criminal network. But their downfall was imminent. A tale of relentless police crackdowns, internal betrayals, and bloody turf wars that would tear them apart. Think of it like this. It's the late 2000s.
So you still don't know what warline mean? Warline.
And a new gang starts to make waves in the rough streets of Brixton's Angel Town estate. This gang, known as GAS Gang, or just GAS, quickly became infamous. The name GAS has a few meanings: guns and shanks, gangsters always shoot, grip and shoot, and grind and stack. Each name gives you a clue about what they were all about.
You gotta check the squeeze. You gotta check the squeeze dictionary. You gotta check the squeeze dictionary to know what the hell I'm talking about. Matter of fact, the chat, YouTube be like, don't know what I be talking about, but I just be talking. You gotta check the squeeze dictionary. Hold on. We gonna hit them with this John. Yeah, we gonna hit them with this John. Hold on.
Brixton had always had its fair share of gang problems. Every generation seemed to bring a new gang with a new name, but the core issue remains the same: poverty, violence, and crime. Angel Town Estate in particular was a hotspot for these activities. Before the GAS gang came along, there were PDC, which stood for Peel Dem Crew, or Poverty-Driven Children. These guys were top dogs in the area until the early 2000s, where many of their leaders ended up behind bars. This led to PDC fragmenting into smaller groups, creating a power vacuum. So, with PDC falling apart, new factions started to pop up. One of these was the Y28, founded by a man named Barfa Joof. He was part of the PDC Brats, which was a junior squad of the PDC. The Y28 made friends with other local gangs like Tiny OC from Myatt's Field and Murder Zone from Somerleyton Estate. They needed these alliances because they were constantly battling gangs from nearby areas, especially those from Peckham. Around this time, something really brutal happened that pushed these alliances even closer together. Members of Y28 were caught unarmed by Peckham gang members and got stabbed. This attack convinced the Y28 and Tiny OC that they had to unite to survive. That's when they decided to form the GAS gang.
Niggas had to clip up against my Peckham niggas. Niggas had to click up on the Peckham niggas. Shit was getting real.
Sometime around 2007, Barfa Joof, a former member of PDC Brats, was one of the key figures in forming the GAS gang. Although he eventually left the gang life after getting some guidance from his probation officer, his early influence was significant. At its peak, the GAS gang reportedly had over 100 members. The
nigga said he left the gang because he got advice from his probation officer.
Left the gang life after getting some guidance from his probation officer.
That's different.
His early influence was significant. At its peak, the GAS gang reportedly had over 100 members. These were mostly young guys from the allied groups, the Tinies of their original gangs. GAS gang didn't just form in a vacuum, they inherited a lot of beef from their predecessor groups. They had serious rivalries with gangs like PYG, Peckham Young Guns, and GMG from Peckham. These rivalries often turned violent, but it wasn't all enemies for the GAS gang. They had their allies too. They were tight with Murder Zone, MZ, Organised Crime, OC, Original Brooklyn Youths, OBY, Brooklyn Family Riders, BFR, and Roadside Gs. These alliances helped them in their territorial battles and solidified their power base in Brixton. By the time we hit the early 2010s, GAS Gang had established itself as a dominant force in Brixton. They were known for their brutal violence and fearless approach to gang life. From their base in Angeltown Estates, they began expanding their influence across South London. With every violent incident, their reputation grew, and soon enough, everyone in the area knew who they were. In the early days, the GAS Gang adopted the colours green and purple. These colours were a nod to their roots, green from organised crime, OC, and purple from Y28. Wearing these colours was more than just a fashion statement. It was a way to show allegiance and instill fear in their rivals' hearts. The gang's notoriety started with some very public and violent incidents. In 2009, CCTV footage showed large groups of GAS gang members brazenly riding into territories controlled by rival gangs. These weren't small acts, they were calculated moves to assert dominance. This footage gave the public a glimpse of how bold and organised the GAS gang was. One of the most shocking incidents that year was the stabbing of a 13-year-old boy outside a fast food shop in Camberwell. This attack was part of the ongoing feud between the GAS gang and Peckham Young Guns, PYG. The fact that such a young kid got caught up in this brutal world highlighted the gang's reach and the dangerous environment they created. The attack made headlines and brought a lot of attention to the escalating gang violence in South London. Unfortunately, it was just the start. GAS Gang's rise was marked by numerous violent clashes with rival gangs. In one incident in 2010, a PYG member drove into GAS territory and opened fire on a group of GAS members. This kind of brazen violence was a regular occurrence between these two gangs. Another rival was ABM, All About Money, based in Stockholm. The death of 15-year-old Zach Olimegbon, allegedly linked to the GAS gang, was a flashpoint in this rivalry. Zach was killed in 2010. The GAS gang later admitted the hits to send a message to rival gangs. Well, Zach's death led to significant legal consequences for GAS members. Trust No One, TN1, another Brixton-based gang, had frequent run-ins with GAS gang. And in one notable incident, a younger TN1 member was stabbed outside Brixton police station by a GAS member.
Outside the police station?
This was a bold move, showing how fearless GAS gang members could be and how they didn't have any regard for the law. They didn't shy away from violence, even in front of law enforcement. DSN, Don't Say Nothing, from Croydon.
DSN, nigga, don't say nothing.
Also had conflicts with the GAS gang. These altercations often involved stabbings and shootings, contributing to the chaotic gang landscape in South London. During their rise, GAS gang members were involved in various criminal activities, with guns and drugs being a significant part of their operations. They were known to carry firearms, which was relatively rare and highly illegal in the UK. This made them even more dangerous. Drug dealing, especially crack cocaine, was another major source of their income. They had a network that extended beyond Brixton, showing just how organised they were. But while the GAS gang had risen from a small group to a well-established, ruthless gang, their rivals increased with equal speed. In November 2011, Aziza Ronnie Khan was shot dead while attending the funeral of a GAS gang member who died in a car crash.
Niggas been spinning on funerals. This ain't nothing new. This ain't nothing new. Niggas been spinning on funerals.
The funeral was held in Southwark, which was a rival territory. Despite police being warned about the potential for violence, they failed.
Yeah, that shit is, niggas be trying to smoke niggas on homegoings. That's crazy. Nigga going home to the Lord and niggas is pulling up to shoot the shit up. It's crazy.
To provide adequate protection. One of the most heartbreaking incidents involving the GAS gang occurred in March 2012. 3 members of the gang, Nathaniel Grant, Kazim Kolawole, and Anthony McCalla, were attempting to shoot a rival gang member who'd run into a shop where Thusha Kamaliswaran, a 5-year-old girl, was playing. They fired indiscriminately into the store, and a bullet hit Thusha in the chest, leaving her paralysed from the waist down. This act of violence shocked the nation and highlighted the innocent victims caught in the crossfire of gang wars. The violence wasn't just about turf wars. By 2012, this act of violence...
That's fucked up, bro. Pretty sure it was an accident, but still fucked up. I hope it was an accident. I hope the nigga ain't just boomed a little girl.
Violence shocked the nation and highlighted the innocent victims caught in the crossfire of gang wars. The violence wasn't just about turf wars. By 2012, the gang was linked to at least 3 deaths and numerous attempted hits. The local council and police believe that the gang was responsible for 3/4 of the violent incidents involving young people in Brixton. Up to 8 suspected members went to jail for murder or attempted murder. Underlining the deadly nature of their activities, the statistics were staggering and painted a grim picture of the gang's impact on the community. As you can imagine,
yeah, I ain't gonna lie, that's just super crazy clickbait. I clicked it. As soon as I started the live, I see that. I said, what's this? I'm intrigued. Nigga said, I'm intrigued. Gangster. I was like, I gotta roll up anyway. Let me watch this while I roll up. I'm intrigued.
Imagine by 2012, the GAS gang had established a notorious reputation as one of the most dangerous gangs in South London. They had about 50 members actively involved in various criminal activities, but their influence extended far beyond their numbers. The gang was responsible for a significant portion of the violent crimes in Brixton, with authorities estimating that they were involved in 3/4 of the violent incidents involving young people in the area. Their operations included drug dealing, gun crime, and violent assaults, making parts of Brixton no-go zones even for the police. 2 months after the Thusha shooting, another brutal act was committed by GAS gang members. Temidayo Oguneye, a young man who'd been robbed by GAS members, returned to Myatt's Field to retrieve his phone. He was ambushed and stabbed to death by Nathan McLeod, a GAS gang member.
Nigga trying to come get his phone back and got diluted. Yo, if niggas took your phone, bro, and they ain't give it back to you right there on the scene, like right there on the spot, how the fuck do you think you going back there later you gonna get it back? You going back there later, niggas thinking you coming back on timing. That's how I'ma think. I ain't thinking you coming back to ask for your phone. I'm thinking you coming back, come take your shit. Oh, man.
A man who'd been robbed by GAS members returned to Myatt's Field to retrieve his phone. He was ambushed and stabbed to death by Nathan McLeod, a GAS gang member. McLeod was later sentenced to a minimum of 14 years for the death of Oguneye. This incident further cemented the gang's reputation for extreme violence and brutality. By 2012, these incidents had solidified GAS gang status as one of the most feared gangs in London. Their violent acts weren't just random, they were calculated moves that left a trail of devastation and fear. The gang's dominance during this period was marked by an unrelenting wave of violence, leaving a lasting impact on the communities they terrorized. However, things were about to change for the GAS gang. The police had had enough of their reign of terror in South London. The gang's violent activities and drug dealings were out of control, and something had to be done to bring them down. Here's how the police tackled the problem head-on. In 2012, the police launched a major operation targeting the key members of the GAS gang. This wasn't just a couple of officers on patrol. This was a coordinated effort to dismantle the gang's operations from the inside out. They managed to arrest several prominent members involved in drug dealing and violent crimes. Nathaniel Grant, Kazim Kolawole, and Anthony McCalla were sentenced to life in prison. These arrests were crucial because they targeted the leaders who orchestrated much of the gang's activities. By taking out the top players, the police hoped to destabilize the gang's structure. As relentless as the police pursuit was, it would still take time before they could put an end to the GAS gang's operations. The gang roamed freely for, well, the next 2 years. The big hammer came down in April 2014. This time, it wasn't just a local operation, it was a massive crackdown involving over 700 police officers. They conducted raids on the houses of gang members across London and even outside the city. 9 raids were specifically targeted around the Angle Town estate, where the GAS gang was headquartered. These raids weren't just about making arrests, they were about sending a message that the police were serious about ending GAS gang's dominance. During these raids, the police uncovered a wide array of criminal activities linked to the gang. They found evidence of drug dealing, money laundering, gun crime, and violent assaults. This was a significant blow to GAS gang's operations and marked a turning point in the fight.
That at 3. I had to be the 33 light, won't lie.
Fight against gang violence in South London. Detective Chief Inspector Tim Champion noted that this operation significantly suppressed violence in the area, with a noticeable reduction in knife crime amongst young people. The decline of the GAS gang was a combination of several factors, but one of the biggest was the jailing of their leaders. When the top dogs were taken off the streets, it created a massive power vacuum. The gang was highly dependent on its leadership, and without those key figures, there were a lot of confusion and infighting. Younger members vied for control, but they lacked the experience and authority of their predecessors. As the power struggle continued, splinter groups began to emerge. Two of the most notable factions were Rock Block 150 and Cyru. Rock Block 150, also known simply as 150, was formed by young members who wanted to distance.
Rock Block 150, that should sound like G Herbo Hood. Rock Block 150. That should sound like Chicago.
Rock Block 150, also known simply as 150, was formed by young members who wanted to distance themselves from the older generation. They had a different style and approach, especially in the music scene, where they made a name for themselves in the UK drill genre. On the other hand, Cyru was another faction that developed from the Somerleyton estate area. These groups still carried the legacy of the GS gang, but operated independently and often had their own internal conflicts. Adding to the chaos was the rivalry with the 76 gang, based in Brixton Hill. The 76 gang became a significant player in the area and frequently clashed with the remnants of the GS gang and its splinter groups. These internal and external conflicts further weakened the cohesion and power of the GAS gang. The relentless efforts of law enforcement played a crucial role in breaking down the gang's influence. The police were determined to dismantle the gang's operations, and their persistence paid off. The raids and arrests in 2012 and 2014 were pivotal moments. By removing key players and continuously pressuring the gang, the police managed to disrupt their activities significantly. The impact on local crime rates was noticeable, with many of the most violent and active members behind bars. The number of violent incidents involving young people in Brixton
brass knuckle with a knife
began to decrease.
Done.
The police reported a 6.5% reduction in knife crime among the under 25s, which was a significant achievement in an area plagued by gang violence. These efforts not only reduced the immediate threats, but also helped to weaken the gang's grip on the community. The constant police presence and the fear of raids and arrests made it harder for the gang to recruit new members and maintain their operations. Over time, this persistent pressure from law enforcement contributed to the overall decline of the GAS gang. The infighting and power struggles within the GAS gang didn't just weaken their structure, it also made them more vulnerable to external threats. The rivalry with the 67 gang was particularly damaging. The 67 gang wasn't just another rival, they were well organized and equally, if not more ruthless. Their rise created additional pressure on the GS gang, leading to frequent violent clashes. These conflicts strained resources and morale, further fragmenting the gang. This combination of internal fragmentation and external pressure from rivals and law enforcement gradually eroded the power and influence of the GS gang. What was once a unified and feared organization splintered into smaller, less cohesive groups that struggled to maintain the same level of control and dominance. When the police did the final count of all GS gang dealings, what they found out was extremely shocking. The GS gang was notorious for its involvement in assassinations, stabbings, and shootings. From 2010 to 2012, the gang was linked to at least 3 deaths. This included the high-profile killing of a 15-year-old Zach Olumegbon in 2010, who was ambushed and stabbed outside his school. In another tragic case, the shooting that paralyzed 5-year-old Thusha Kamaleswaran occurred in 2012 when gang members fired into a shop aiming for a rival but hit the innocent girl instead. Stabbings were a frequent occurrence, with many gang altercations ending in severe injuries or death. For example, in 2011, a younger member of the rival TN1 gang was stabbed outside Brixton police station by a GS gang member. Shootings were also part of their violent repertoire. In one notable incident, a PYG member drove into GS territory and opened fire on a group of GS members. The gang's drug dealing operations were extensive and sophisticated. They primarily dealt with coke and expanded their network beyond Brixton. By 2014, police raids revealed that the GAS gang had contacts and drug operations in Edinburgh, Essex, Bedfordshire, Reading, and Bracknell. Their drug dealing wasn't just about street-level sales, they were involved in money laundering and other organised crime activities to support their operations. Hearing from people who lived through the gang's reign provides a raw and real perspective on their impact. Former members have shared harrowing accounts of their time in the gang. One founder, who later left the gang, recounted how the gang had over 100 members at its height, all involved in some sort of criminal activity. The constant threat of violence and the pressure to maintain loyalty were overwhelming. What are your thoughts on the GS Gang's story? Let us know in the comments below. If you like our content, don't forget to check out the channel. I've got many more stories from the underworld to share with you.
Wow!